This week on ESO Vlog, beta invites, the community is blowing up, account security issues, and patch notes. Well, it's always nice when you can start a show with some positive news, and this weekend, Friday, February the 28th through Sunday midnight, is the next beta weekend. What's exciting about this particular weekend is the individual testers have been given extra codes to pass out to friends. So if you haven't had a chance to experience an ESO beta weekend, these codes are all over the net. They're not that hard to find, and this might be your best opportunity. Plus, once you redeem a code, it is very likely that you will be invited to all of the remaining betas until launch. Continuing with the good news, Tamriel Foundry surpassed 20,000 members according to the tweet they sent out yesterday. Kudos to you guys. That's an amazing accomplishment. Anybody who watches my videos knows I reference Tamriel Foundry all the time. It is one of the better ESO communities out there. In fact, I finally got off the fence, stopped being a stalker, and registered myself this morning. So again, congrats to Tamriel Foundry, 20,000 members. By the way, I didn't think about this before, but if you are recruiting for guilds, they do have a guild recruitment section, so, you know, something to think about if you're a guild master out there. And before we leave Tamriel Foundry, I want to take the time to acknowledge a post by Eloa from earlier today. Eloa has taken the time to list the command for every single emote in Elder Scrolls Online. She has also posted a video with their in-game graphics, link in the description. The opening music on that emote video, it was worth the watch just all by itself. I don't know, it made me giggle. There is, regrettably, some serious news that we do have to discuss, and it does have some negative connotations. When ESO goes live, your user ID will be publicly available and in several locations, the most prominent of which will be your friends list, your guild roster, and the ESO forums. I looked around trying to find a press release or a quote as to why they did this. I wasn't able to find one. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Just means I wasn't able to find it. I'm assuming this is because guilds are account bound. Now, we could go back and forth about how big of a risk this is to account security. That's really only time is going to tell. However, I'll just say this. Had they used some form of account nickname system, this whole issue is off the table. Now, if you are concerned because you've pre-ordered and you have a user ID that you don't necessarily want the public to be able to view, you can change your user ID by simply going to the Elder Scrolls website. From the home page, simply follow the header bar along the top all the way over to support, and on the support page along the right hand side you will see two options, one for a phone call and one for an email. Both options will require you to fill out a very short form. From what I've heard, a phone call takes just a few hours, an email takes 1 day, so that's excellent service, and you can have your username changed in no time. Alright, now that you've got your user ID changed to something that you're comfortable with, it's time to log in, and what do you see? Bam! Patch notes. The individual changes themselves are pretty sweet, and we will go over the most important ones in a minute because I think they will give most ESO fans something to be excited about. However, when you take a look at the changes as a whole and read between the lines, this patch is much more than the sum of its parts. The reason being is the underlying theme of these changes is that the developers are taking fan feedback seriously. Now, I know that sounds like an easy thing to do, but in order for that to happen, the very first thing that you have to do is reject fanboyism, this notion that there's nothing wrong with this game. Let me save you some suspense. Every MMO in history has had issues at launch, and every MMO in history will have issues at launch, and this game is no exception. You know, think of it this way. What parent have you ever met who didn't think that their toddler was smarter and cuter than every other child in class? And to the devs, you know, this game is basically their child. Once you get past the whole shimmering veneer of fanboyville, you can see things for what they are, and then start making decisions based on reality. In my mind, this patch shows that they've at least started that process, and that definitely should provide a sense of encouragement for the ESO community. So let's go ahead and take a look at the actual changes themselves. First on our list is the changes to the post-tutorial leveling experience. Previously, once you finished the Cold Harbor quest line, you would go to areas commonly referred to as starter islands. Many of you will probably recall that when the early level NDA was lifted, these starter islands were amongst the most heavily criticized aspects of early gameplay. With the changes, now upon leaving Cold Harbor, you will be transported to your faction's starting city. You will then be given choices whether to stay in that general vicinity or travel to Noob Island and begin questing there. I like this decision for two reasons. First, the questing flow around the starting city areas is much better than it is on Noob Islands. Secondly, the starter islands just have this feel of leading you around by the nose, and now that you have choices, I think that just better fits the ESO tradition and game model. Next on the hit parade are Dark Fishers. These are fundamentally just scaled down versions of Dark Anchors that are meant to be soloable. This is more of a funsy item that I know I'm looking forward to. The last large change of note is collision detection, which is something a lot of people have been asking for a long time. Previously, you could simply just walk right through your target or even a herd of enemy NPCs. This had sort of a wonky effect on gameplay and really spoiled many of the maneuvers or special abilities from the enemy NPCs. Now with collision detection in effect, you can't do that, and you can even get pinned down by a large number of enemy targets. There is an important note here, though, that collision detection will not be in effect when involving two players. This was a concession that had to be made apparently due to performance issues that would take place in mass PvP combat in Cyrodiil. As a PvP purist, I would have liked to have seen it be in effect for player versus player. However, as a person running a mediocre computer, I'm kind of glad that they didn't. One of those damned if you do, damned if you don't choices, and I'm not really going to criticize them either way because I can certainly understand the decision. Most of the rest of the changes are just minor tweaks and balances. If you're not an official game tester who can go beyond the beta test level caps, you probably wouldn't have any contextual frame of reference. However, if you did want to review them, link in the description. And that's everything I want to discuss this week, guys. A couple of housekeeping issues. There is a beta test this weekend, so I will certainly get us some new video to see. I hope that video will be in support of a couple of programs I want to do on either crafting or some more extensive character builds. Hopefully that video will make it a little bit easier to follow. Also, many of you may have noticed in the bottom right-hand corner, I have my Twitter address. The reason being is over the last few weeks, we've gotten a lot of new subscribers and comments, and just like anybody else who likes to think they have some semblance of self-respect, I have no goddamn clue how Google Plus works. You plus one me, does etiquette require I plus one you back? We talking a circle jerk here? I don't know. The thing is, I still want to try and reply to most comments and or questions on my videos, and the Google Plus, comment share interface, it's just so much easier. So if you absolutely positively have to have a reply for me, go ahead and send me a tweet. That interface is just so much easier for me to use and keep track of. And see you next week.